Hi, Julian here. So today I'm going to be talking about why it took me so long to realize I was trans. So I guess I'll get started. So I guess the most important thing is, it's not that I didn't know trans people existed. I'm sure in my childhood I didn't know for a while. But pretty soon in my life I knew that they existed, but I had only ever heard the narrative of, I've always known I was trans. Oh my god, since I was 3, since I was 4, I was like, Mom, I'm a boy. And there are people like that, but that's all that I ever heard. Or people saying oh my god, I just feel like I'm in the wrong body, and I just think about it every day, and I just want to get out. And I just don't feel that way. I do experience gender dysphoria in different ways, but it's not, luckily for me, it's not that bad. But so I just didn't connect with that at all. And some people even say, some trans YouTubers who I do relate with do say that maybe they didn't necessarily know for a fact that they were trans when they were little. And these are people who transition later in life, in their 20s and stuff. And I didn't realize I was trans or have any inkling until I was 20. I'm 21 now. And what some of them will say is I didn't necessarily know I was trans, but I knew something was wrong. And I think that I probably had the same experience as them, but I think I would word it differently, because I didn't necessarily know that something was wrong, but I had a feeling of I'm different. There are a few different reasons that I felt I couldn't really relate with my peers, but I felt I'm different. Or, I don't feel like I'm being treated the way I should, or people's expectations about me are not lining up with how I am. And I think some of that was me just thinking I'm not the traditional woman. And I think, some of it might have been sexism, some of it might have been gender roles, but there are definitely instances where, I don't know, I think that definitely confused me. And I think it is important to analyze, if you're asking this question about yourself, is it sexism? Is it gender roles? I think that made it harder for me to decode what is just, I feel like a different gender than how I was assigned at birth, and what is just people making assumptions about the female gender. So I guess another thing is, I feel like a lot of trans guys that I had seen growing up, and then later when I had an inkling that I was trans and I saw some guys on YouTube, is I couldn't really relate with a lot of them, because even when they were presenting as female, they were very masculine. A lot of them are and a lot of them were people who said oh, I knew since I was 3 that I was a boy. I dressed in boys' clothes. I played sports all the time. And it's I never liked sports. I don't really care for them. I'm not a super masculine person. So I just don't relate with that narrative at all. And gradually now I've kind of realized that, and I've found more YouTubers like me who I relate to, where I'm just I'm kind of a flamboyant guy. I'm a flamboyant bisexual kind of punk rocker kind of guy. So that's why I didn't connect with the other guys as much. As you can see, I'm wearing jewelry. I love sparkly things. I'm gonna keep wearing jewelry. Definitely it will depend where I live in my life with how safe I feel doing that. It'll definitely hinder probably how comfortable I am using the men's bathroom once I'm passing more, once I'm using testosterone and have top surgery and everything. Another thing is, I just didn't think about my gender that much growing up. It just, I don't know, I was just me. I just felt some different from other people, from my peers sometimes, but I thought that was just me and my personality, not anything gender related. Okay, here are some core pieces too. So these are major reasons, underlying reasons why I think I felt restrained in being who I am. Because I was kind of chubby in elementary school, my mom would hand make me dresses, and that was just because they were the most comfortable for me, because a lot of pants didn't really fit me super well. So it just kind of seemed it wasn't necessarily oh my god, I love these dresses. I didn't really think about it. I was this is what's comfortable for me to wear. This is fine. I didn't hate it, didn't love it. Whenever I heard people talk about tomboys, It was never positive. Like, it just, not that they're necessarily insulting them, but just like tone and things like that, it never felt like something that you should be. I knew, like, there was a kid in my grade who is also a trans man who did dress like a boy, and he was called a tomboy. Yeah, so that wasn't portrayed in a very positive light. But no, another piece is, as you can see, I have short hair, and I wasn't really allowed to do that until somewhat recently. So I remember being like 10 or so and holding my hair up and trying to fold it back to see what it looked like if it was shorter, and I was like, ooh, I kind of like that. I finally got it cut my freshman year of high school, and I loved it. I was so happy with that. And in general, like, whenever I try on clothes and stuff, my mom would always she'd turn things around so that it wouldn't be like, how do you feel in the clothes? Do you like it? A lot of times it would be like, what will other people think of those clothes? Like, how will they see it on you? And I don't think she was doing that to be mean. I think it comes from personal insecurities. I think it's trying to protect me and make sure I'm treated well. So I forgive her, but it was very painful. So I think what I did is I learned to kind of objectify myself. So I'd look at myself and be like, does that look good? Is that pretty? And I wouldn't think, do I feel good in these clothes? Do I like these? And there were a lot of times where I'd try on something and be like, I don't know if I really want this. And my mom, like, I'd be unsure about it, and my mom would be like, let's get it. And it's like, if I was doing that today and I felt unsure, I wouldn't spend money on something. I wouldn't get it. So, yeah. So I think it was just kind of learning to see what's good versus what makes me feel good. God, I just remember wearing a lot of Aeropostale shirts that were freaking form-fitting, and I hated it, but it was what was cool at the time, so I did it. I also just never, I think I would have worn boys' clothes earlier. Boys' clothes, yeah, we gender everything. I would have worn them earlier if I'd been more comfortable doing it. I always felt afraid to go in the men's section. I still kind of am. I'm working on that. Like, my mom did bring me there to get like guys sweatpants before and like a button-down shirt for work once, and like she was fine with it. I just haven't been comfortable with it, and just thinking, what will people think, though I did finally start wearing guys' clothes when my cousin's husband had all these clothes that he was getting rid of, and a lot of people on my campus like wear baggy, like, you know, old thrifted clothing. So I was like, oh, well, let me just see, maybe this would fit in with the style and the vibe of my college, so I can try it. So I had my mom tell me if it looked good, because I needed that approval, and she said it looked good, and I wore it, and they're like my favorite clothes. I love them. They're so comfortable. I'm not constantly adjusting. I'm not pulling something down, pulling something up. That's one of the things that I hate the most about women's clothing. I'm so comfortable. I like the way I look. It's not super form-fitting. As you can see, I've bought more men's clothing. I just got this thrifted like 2 days ago. But yeah, that was the beginning. Once I had those clothes, I like didn't wear anything else after that, pretty much. They're so great. But yeah, so it's a lot of appearance issues. But yeah, I think another part is not only have I been afraid of being caught shopping in the men's section, it's just being afraid I'd be ridiculed wearing men's clothing. And I think, I've had a lot of internalized homophobia, and that's why it took me so long to realize I was bisexual or pansexual. That was like, I came out last year, and I had sort of a feeling that I might have been bi when I was like maybe 10 or 11, but I didn't really understand anything. It was a long realization process. But yeah, and it's like I've seen so many negative portrayals of like lesbians and queer women in the media, and like, oh, they're so gruff and masculine and gross and unattractive and awful. And of course they're portrayed that way because the patriarchy hates women who don't need men. But so it took a lot. I had to do a bit of counseling to get rid of that and to dig into that. And I think also just my family's obsession with appearance like helped fuel that inner hatred. So it's like, oh, if society hates the way that these queer women, like the queer women can present themselves, then obviously my family's gonna hate it. I don't know. Yeah, so I've dug into that. There are even times where it's like I made fun of myself when I did have my hair cut and I was wearing men's clothing. I was like, oh, you look so terrible. And I just kind of realized that I did that like a few days ago. I don't know. I had to kind of apologize to myself for that one. But yeah, I used to be more afraid of people's ridicule. And there was an instance where that was really uncomfortable, where I was at work and I work in like this woman's clothing place, and I wasn't comfortable wearing that, and you have to wear the clothes for the uniform, but luckily there's some men's shirts in the place, so when they were like, okay, pick out your uniform, I went to the men's section and they just started laughing at me. So it was really uncomfortable. I felt kind of dizzy. I kind of wanted to just shrink into a ball and disappear, but I got through it. They're treating me okay. Like, I just get looks sometimes, which is annoying, and people know me as the person in the store who wears men's shirts. They're just button-downs. So that was not fun. Another thing is, I was working one day, and I was wearing a button-down shirt, which is a men's shirt, so it's a little baggy on me, and a woman thought I was pregnant, and she thought I was wearing maternity wear. But now I'm at the point where I think I'm confident enough about it, and nothing I'm doing is wrong. I know nothing I'm doing is wrong, so if people are assholes to me, that's just them. There's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. They just don't understand. Like, honestly, probably they don't want to be hateful. They just don't understand. So, I'm excused. I'm excusing myself. I'm going to wear whatever the hell I want to wear. I'm going to do what I want. Even after I transition, I'm going to wear jewelry.
Another thing that could potentially keep you from realizing you're trans is if your family's pretty appearance obsessed, be it around like, people's like body sizes, like if they fat shame, like, if they judge whether people wear makeup or not, or if people look together, or judge people's ages, and yeah, especially like if your family fat shames a lot, and if you're kind of overweight, if you don't feel comfortable in your body for like other reasons, it might take you a longer time to realize that some other reasons you might be uncomfortable are due to gender. So you might be like, I feel crummy because like I'm fat and everyone thinks I look awful and blah 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 blah. So like that can get in the way too. This is going back to another point, is like I think also if you don't have a lot of like dysphoria with specific parts of your body, that could also that could keep you from realizing. Because I mean, you can want to look more masculine, you can want a deeper voice, you can want to be treated like a man, but you can also feel like you don't hate your chest. Like I have never felt really, really, really uncomfortable with my chest. I would like it removed because I just feel like it doesn't fit the image in my head of what I would like to be, but I've never felt super uncomfortable and a lot of dysphoria around that. Yeah, so it's like I don't think you necessarily have to feel like an alien in your body to have to be trans. I guess one other thing I'd add is like if you're afraid of going into the men's section to get clothing, you might also not know how much you would like it until you put it on. So it's like if you're afraid to go into the section and then you're not trying it on, you don't know how much you might like it. You might not know that that's what you want until you try it. And that's really a lot of the like process of figuring out that you're trans, is like there's a lot that you just can't know until you try it. You can't know that you're going to want another name and pronouns necessarily. I mean, maybe you do, but maybe you won't know until you have people calling you those. It's fine because you need to experiment to figure out what you like, but also experimenting is just taking little baby steps, doing those things, like moving in the direction of becoming a trans person or like presenting that way.
So anyways, I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comment section. Yeah, I'm new to trans YouTube, so I'm going to try to put out more stuff just to help people, because I don't think that there are that many narratives that I knew since I was 3 that I was trans. Alright, thanks.